Welcome back as we continue our study in the book of Revelation and now in the seven seals. We are in a very critical area, as you can tell by the thumbnail. We are in a very critical area of the study of the seals. Yes, very critical. Welcome back, brethren of the tribes. And yes, we must go through this. This is the thing, brethren. When you look at that thumbnail of one of the Hebrews being lynched. All of the Caucasians you see in that picture are Christians. Let me say that again. When you see the thumbnail, the brother whose feet you see is a Hebrew. And the people that put him there are Christians. I want to make sure you heard me. The brother whose feet you see hanging from that tree, the strange fruit, as Billie Holiday would say, is a Hebrew. The people that you see that put him there are Christians. Now, let me ask you a question. Does it make sense for us to be part of the religion of those people? Does it make sense for us to be part of the religion of those people? And don't you think the Bible would have something to say about that? See, this is the thing, brethren. In the United States of America, everybody knows about that. Some people heard about it and are not really versed in it, the younger ones. Some remember it because either their friends or family have been involved with it. And others are descendants of those people. Those are their grandfathers and their great-grandfathers that did that. And by and large, they'll either say, you should get over it. You should receive Jesus. It's not affecting you now. Or I didn't have anything to do with it, they'll say. But it's there. The wonderful thing about truth is that it sets you free from lies. And the best thing about being set free from lies is that you have an opportunity for repentance. Now, I'm going to appear right now to go off script a bit, but it's not really. We know that our high priest is in the heavenly sanctuary right now. We know that he is what's doing what the Bible calls cleansing the sanctuary right now. The cleansing is the removal of all confessed sin. That's the cleansing of the sanctuary. It's the removal from the sanctuary because all confessed sin is confessed to the sanctuary because that is where the Father is and that is where the high priest is. So the cleansing of the sanctuary is the removal of all the waste material of sin. Now, when my children were little and we started teaching them this doctrine about the cleansing of the sanctuary when they were little, one of my little girls, when she had to go to the bathroom, she would say, oh, I got to go cleanse the sanctuary. Because, of course, your body is also the temple of Yahweh. And so your body represents the temple. And, of course, your system is the sanctuary. So she would say, I have to go cleanse the sanctuary. And we knew what she meant. She was going to move her bowels and have her body cleansed from the waste material. I know myself, whenever that needs to happen with me, I can't really do anything until that's done. Like, I can't work out, I can't be active until the sanctuary is cleansed. But once the sanctuary is cleansed, I'm ready to go. I got energy. Any of y'all ever experienced that? When your sanctuary is timed for your sanctuary to be cleansed, once it's cleansed, you get this energy you're ready to do. Before it's cleansed, when it's bubbly and it's not, you can't do anything. I used to wonder. I just figured that out. I used to wonder what's wrong with me. I can't. But then I've realized over the last few years that whenever I'm not feeling like getting my workout in, either my body is tired or my sanctuary needs to be cleansed. And I know it's usually the latter. And I just need to wait until it's time. And then I am ready to go. Well, when the Messiah is finished cleansing the sanctuary, he's going to be ready to go. And part of that being ready to go is vengeance on our enemies. Let's get into the word. Deuteronomy. Now, what we're going to read right now, as we're getting ready to do seals 6, 5, 6, and 7. That's what we're getting ready to do. That's what's happening right now and what's getting ready to happen in the near future. Seals 5, 6, and 7. Let me say it again. That's what's happening right now and what's getting ready to happen in the future. The 7th seal is the future. 5 and 6 are now. 5 led to 6. And we are in 6 right now. And 6 is getting ready to lead to 7. And all of it will be complete within 7 years. Actually, it's 6 and change right now. So what we're getting ready to read in Deuteronomy, and let's turn to Deuteronomy 28. What we're getting ready to read in Deuteronomy can be found in Isaiah, prophet Isaiah, in Jeremiah, in Ezekiel, in Daniel, in Hosea, in Joel, in Amos, in Zephaniah, in Zechariah, in Haggai, in Obadiah. It could be found in all of them. So I just named what, 10, 11. So just to let you know, the reason I said that is because I want you to be able to find what I'm getting ready to show you in Deuteronomy and these other prophets, because the Bible gives us a principle which we really try to strictly adhere to, which is in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. So I'm trying to ahead of time so we don't have to go into all that. We've done it many times. But for those that are new to this doctrine and this channel and this study, you can find witnesses in all of those places. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Zephaniah, Zechariah. You can find all of that. Okay? You can find the witnesses to what we're about to read in all of those books. So let's look at Deuteronomy 28. And of course, we're not going to read the entire chapter because it's 68 verses long, but we're going to go definitely highlighting certain issues that will be plain as to what we're talking about. So let's look at Deuteronomy 28. I'm going to begin at verse 1. And from verse 1, we're going to go down to verse 14. Deuteronomy 28 from verse 1 to 14. Deuteronomy is the Latin term for this volume book of Moses. Its original term is called These Be the Words. Adabarim, the words. These be the words. And we like to say, or should I say, our ministry likes to say, the 5 books of Moses, Genesis, in the beginning, Exodus, Yahweh named the children of Israel. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Yahweh called Moses. Numbers, Yahweh spake to Moses. And Deuteronomy, these be the words. In the beginning, Yahweh named the children of Israel. Yahweh called Moses. Yahweh spake to Moses. These be the words. So Deuteronomy is the word from the Most High to the children of Israel through Moses. It is both the past of our history, the present of our situation, and the future. These be the words. And again, you can find them in all the books I gave you. So if you want to know, and that's the thing, brethren. Most of our enemies don't want to know or want to act like they don't know the truth. But again, acting like you don't know a hurricane is coming does not prevent the hurricane from coming. When all the satellites tell you there's a bad hurricane coming, ignoring the satellites, ignoring what they're telling you, doesn't stop the coming destruction. Whereas taking heed in preparation might save your life. This principle is here. Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh thy Most High, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that Yahweh thy Most High will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy Most High. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, and the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. Yahweh shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way, and flee before thee 7 ways. Yahweh shall command the blessing upon thee in thy storehouses, and in all that thou settest thine hand unto. And he shall bless thee in the land which Yahweh thy Most High giveth. Yahweh shall establish thee an holy people unto himself, as he hath sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of Yahweh thy Most High, and walk in his ways. All the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of Yahweh, and they shall be afraid of thee. And Yahweh shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground, in the land which Yahweh sware unto thy fathers to give thee. Yahweh shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven, to give the rain into thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, thou shalt not borrow. Yahweh shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, thou shalt not be beneath. If thou hearken unto the commandments of Yahweh thy Most High, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them, and thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. So the final word in that blessing was don't serve other gods. And the children of Israel, our forefathers, left the land of Ham, today known as Egypt, Mizraim, the house of bondage, and after 40 years entered into the land that Moses is talking about. The children of Israel remained in that land for over 1,000 years. They remained in that land for over 1,000 years. Now let's look at the second part. This is Deuteronomy 28 from verse 15. From verse 15 down to verse 25. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy Most High, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which he command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. Yahweh shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto, for to do until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. Yahweh shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. Yahweh shall smite thee with the consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. Thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. Yahweh shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee till thou be destroyed. Yahweh shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them. Thou shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. So to worship other gods is to cause us all of these curses and more, and to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Now let's just look at some of the examples of the curse. We looked at the blessing. I mentioned that we were in the land, our fathers, for over 1,000 years. We were in the land for over 1,000 years. But it has been over 2,000 years since we've been completely kicked off the land. So we were on the land for over 1,000 years, but we've been kicked off for 2,000 years. And we were in subjection to our enemies. But when you count the 2,300-year prophecy until now, for almost 3,000 years. So we have been fulfilling the curse that we just read about. Let's look at some of the specifics. Verse 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face. Thou shalt not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given into thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. Land taken, property taken from us, no reparations. Let me say that again. Part of the curse: land, property, spouse taken from you, children taken from you, and no reparations. You see why hoping for reparations from your enemies is a waste of time? The curse says you ain't gonna get it, not from them. No matter what the United Nations say, you ain't getting your reparations. The people that did it to you are not going to give you any. It's part of the curse. Verse 37. Thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither Yahweh shall lead thee. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shall gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. Verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity, jail. Verse 43. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. So people that come into, for example, the United States from countries that's not from the United States, that hasn't been here as you and I have, and our ancestors, coming from other places, starting businesses like 7-Elevens, opening stores, opening delis, opening food stores and restaurants, and you can't. Buying houses, and you can't. In the United States, most of the net worth of the average citizen is in real estate. And guess who owns the least real estate? You and me. It's part of the curse. Some of us are fortunate and can get some real estate. But most of us, the vast, vast majority of us, cannot. In fact, let me just do a quick search on this subject. Percentage of African Americans that own real estate. Black ownership rate sees the largest annual increase among racial groups, but still trails white home ownership by almost 30 percentage points. Yes, we rent more than we own. People of color are less likely to own homes compared to white households. Wow. So yes, that is part of the curse. See, the majority of us do not. Whereas if you were to look at other people, Asians, for example, I'm not trying to blame them, the people that come over here to the United States from Taiwan, Japan, Korea, as a percentage of their population, I bet you they own a lot of property. You say, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high. It's part of the curse. Deuteronomy 28, verse 48. Therefore, actually, let me start at verse 47. Deuteronomy 28, verses 47 to 50. Deuteronomy 28 from verses 47 to 50. Because thou servest not Yahweh thy Most High with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. Not hard to figure out who that is. Part of the curse. Verse 64 to 68. Deuteronomy 28, verses 64 to 68. We're talking about revenge and the fifth, sixth, and seventh seal. Oh, we'll get to it. I just need you to understand where we are and why. Verse 64 to 68. And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, wood and stone. Among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. Thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would Yahweh it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would Yahweh it were morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy. That is chattel slavery. I heard some Irish person talk about why people were in slavery. There have been no persons on the planet Earth's history that were ever in chattel slavery like the Hebrews. And that's because of the curse. Everybody else was in a form of slavery called indentured servitude, where you owed a debt or you can buy your way out of it, not the Hebrews. Chattel slavery means you're born, captured, born, bred to be a slave. You, your children, and your grandchildren, and many generations as possible. No other persons on the planet dealt with that. Then people like to compare us to the Holocaust. It's sorry. It's a sorry comparison. The Holocaust lasted from Kristallnacht in 1938 until 1945, when the Allies delivered the Ashkenazis. 7 years. You cannot compare that to hundreds of us being loaded in the bottom of ships with urine and doo-doo all over the place for months and weeks at a time, and many of us being thrown overboard because the cargo was bad or died because of the stench, because of the evil, and happening for 244 years, and then bringing us and breeding us to be slaves till we got to millions, and that's just the United States. We're not even dealing with the Spanish, the French, the Belgians. We're not even dealing with the Dutch, the Portuguese. We're not even dealing with all that. That's just the United States. And you're trying to compare it to the Holocaust. You see how offensive that is? And to this day, the same Ashkenazi Holocaust victims get $4 or $5, $6 billion from the U.S. government every single year. And you comparing them to us? Do you see how silly that is? Anyway, let's go forward. Deuteronomy chapter 30. So that was the curse. But the curse would not last. Fortunately for us, we have a merciful Most High. And the curse was, as you can see, severe. But there is deliverance. Because even under the curse, we are and were and always will be the children of Abraham. Nothing can change that. The bloodline is always going to be the bloodline. And there's always hope. Deuteronomy chapter 30. Deuteronomy chapter 30 from verses 1 to 7. You saw the curses, right? Okay. Again, Deuteronomy chapter 30. And as I also told you, there's at least 10 other witnesses to what we're reading. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 1 through 7. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse. Well, let me stop here. Have we received the blessing and the curse? Hebrews. Have we received the blessing and the curse? Have they come upon us? First the blessing, and notice the order. First the blessing, then the curse, so that the last thing that we would experience is the curse. I think that happened, right? Okay. So it says, and it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither Yahweh thy Most High hath driven thee, and shalt return unto Yahweh thy Most High, and shalt obey his voice, according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then Yahweh thy Most High will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither Yahweh thy Most High hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahweh thy Most High gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And Yahweh thy Most High will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. Ooh. And Yahweh thy Most High will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed, to love Yahweh thy Most High with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. Notice what it didn't say. You should love white Jesus with all your heart and with all your soul. No, that's not what it said. Let me read it again. Yahweh thy Most High will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed, to love Yahweh thy Most High with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. One more. And Yahweh thy Most High will put all these curses. What about them? Upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. So all the curses that came upon us in Deuteronomy 28 are going to come on our enemies. And it's not us that's doing it. Our God is going to do it. And how he's going to do it, he is going to send our cousin. And that's going to take care of that business. Okay. Let me see now. Where should I begin? Okay, let me start in Deuteronomy 32. I'm going to start at verse 7. Again, I'm going to skip around for the sake of time because we got stuff to cover. Okay, so Deuteronomy chapter 32. So now we've seen our initial blessing. Then we saw the curse that came upon us. Then we caught the promise of our awakening, our deliverance as a result of that awakening, and the curses being placed on our enemies. That is now underway. Oh, but they ain't caught it yet. But you can hear the rumbling. They're like the receiver that hears the footsteps. The ball's in the air. The receiver is cutting across the field. He's about to catch the ball, and he hears some footsteps. They're hearing the footsteps. Okay. Deuteronomy 32, beginning at verse 7. I'm going to read from verse 7 down to verse 17. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. When the Most High divided the nations in their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For Yahweh's portion is his people. Curse, blessing or curse or whatever. Notice what it said. Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in the desert land, in the waste-howling wilderness. He led him about, he instructed him. He kept him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, fluttereth over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, and taketh them, bearing them on her wings. So Yahweh alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. He made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the field. He made him to suck the honey out of the rock, and oil out of the flinty rock, butter of kine, and milk of sheep, and fat, and with fat of lambs, and rams of the breed of Bashan, goats of the fat of kidneys, wheat, thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. But Jeshurun, that's us, waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook Yahweh, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils, and not to Yahweh, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Of the rock that begot thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten Yahweh that formed thee. And when Yahweh saw it, he abhorred them, because they provoked the provoking of his sons and his daughters. Verse 20, and he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be. For they are a very froward generation, children in whom is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities. I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. That's what Romans chapter 11 is saying. For those Gentiles that think they're the new Israel. Excuse me. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those that are not a people. That is you Gentiles. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation, Americans. Verse 26. Deuteronomy 32:26. I said, I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. That is why we are called the hidden ones, our remembrance to cease. Now, so many don't know who we really are. In fact, we're just finding out who we really are. Many do know who we are. But what everybody knows is what our enemies did to us. Everybody knows that. The United Nations just acknowledged it. Am I lying? Wasn't it just this past week? The United Nations said that they voted, and every country in the United Nations except 3 said this is the worst atrocity that ever happened to human beings in the history of planet Earth. That's what they said. So they all know what they did to us. Even the ones that voted against it knew what they did to us. In fact, those are the chief architects. So everybody knows, but very few acknowledge. And why? Because the remembrance of us is ceasing from among men, or it has ceased, but now we are coming back. Because why? Because it shall come to pass when all these things come upon thee, the blessings and the curse, and thou shalt call them to mind. Here we are. Okay, verse 35. I'm going to read from verse 35 to verse 43, and that'll be it for this part. Verse 35 to verse 43, Deuteronomy chapter 32. So he said we're going to worship other gods that we had never heard of before, like Jesus, Islam, Judaism. He said, we're going to be scattered. He said, we're going to be forgotten about. Okay. It's beautiful, isn't it? We are already scattered. We've forgotten about. We look like we losing the fight. We won't be around forever. And then all of a sudden, boom, here we come. Deuteronomy chapter 32 from verse 35 to verse 43. To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of calamity is at hand, and the things shall come upon them. Make haste, for Yahweh shall judge his people and repent himself for his servants. When he seeth their power is gone, and there is none shut up or left. So when our power is gone, when we are cornered, when we are the worst, when we are the lowest, when we are the poorest, when we are the most incarcerated, when we're in the worst Holocaust that ever existed, he's ready. Verse 36, verse 37. And he shall say, where are their gods, their rock in whom they trusted, which did eat of the fat of their sacrifices and drank of the wine of their drink offerings? Let them rise up and help you and be your protection. So now that even I am he, and there is no God with me, I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up mine hand to heaven and say, I live forever. If I whet my glittering sword, and mine hand shall take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies and reward them that hate me. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with blood of the slain of the captives from the beginning of revenges upon the enemy. Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants and will render vengeance to his adversaries and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. Here we go. Here we go. Revelation chapter 6. Revelation chapter 6. Here we go. Fifth seal. We're in the fifth seal now. Revelation chapter 6. Here we go. In the fifth seal. Here we go. See? Y'all thought that y'all was all together like y'all. White, evil, lying, conniving, warlike. Y'all thought he was like y'all. Y'all thought that he was not with us. Well, I got another thought for you. Revelation chapter 6. Let's go to the fifth seal. Fifth seal. Beginning at verse 9. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Yahweh and for the testimony which they held. They cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Yahweh, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest for yet a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. Now, what is they talking about? We were suffering death at the hands of the four powers. We know Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, and Rome. But then the Romans took that mess to a new level. And there was really, when you see what happened in the first, second, third, fourth churches, you see what happened to us when Christianity came on us. See, no, brethren, there wasn't no Christianity that was a blessing to the Hebrews. The Christianity came from the mind of the devil and from the mind of the Gentile. You listen now, Abraham wasn't no Christian. And the reason we're the chosen people is for Yah's promise to Abraham. Abraham wasn't no Christian. Isaac wasn't no Christian. Jacob wasn't no Christian. Moses wasn't no Christian. Elijah wasn't no Christian. Samuel wasn't no Christian. Isaiah wasn't no Christian. Jeremiah wasn't no Christian. Ezekiel wasn't no Christian. Daniel wasn't no Christian. The 12 apostles weren't Christians. Messiah did not come to the planet to create a new religion. That's what Christianity is. See, there is no Christianity in the Bible. There is no religion named in the Bible. Let me say it again. I dare anybody. There is no religion named in the Bible. Zero. None. So what does all of these things mean that Moses wrote? It means that Moses is part of a chosen nation, descendants of Abraham, the friend of the Creator, and that Moses' bloodline people would worship the Creator. That's not a religion. That Abraham was promised that he would be made a great nation, and that nation would worship the God that was the friend of Abraham. That's not a religion. There was no named religion in the Bible, ever. So when you hear a name, where does it come from? It comes from the mind of some man. Judaism comes from the mind of some man. Christianity comes from the mind of some man. Islam comes from the mind of some man. Now, they give meanings to it, religion of peace or whatever, but did not come from the Creator. What the Creator named is his chosen nation. And he called them the children of Israel. That's not a religion. That's a chosen nation. There is no named religion in the Bible. All named religions came from the mind of a man. And you cannot put your trust in man. And the Creator does not need man. Man needs him. So, what are we talking about then? The children of Israel have been sacrificed. They've been slaughtered. They've been exploited. They've been murdered from the time of the Romans until now. And so all of the slaughtering of the children of Israel, when you get to, again, the fifth church, let's take a look, Revelation chapter 3 now. In the fifth church, Sardis, remember, seal and church. Seal for seal, church for church, right? So Revelation chapter 3, the church at Sardis, what did the Messiah say? Now we see that there's the blood of our forefathers crying out. And that's not a new concept. The first time you heard that concept was with Abel, right? Cain killed Abel. And what did the father tell Cain? He said, the blood of your brother is crying out to me. Isn't that what the father said to Cain? He said, where's your brother? And he said, am I my brother's keeper? He said, the blood of your brother is crying out to me. And so that's what this is showing right here. The blood of our forefathers is crying out to the Father. When you going to avenge our blood on these heathen? Okay? Let's look at Sardis. Revelation chapter 3, beginning at verse 1. Unto the angel of the church in Sardis write, these things saith he that hath the 7 spirits of Yahweh and the 7 stars. I know thy works, that thou hast a name, that thou livest and art dead. Be watchful and strengthen the things which remain, that are ready to die. For I have not found thy works perfect before Yahweh. Remember, therefore, how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I shall come upon thee. Thou hast a few names, even in Sardis, which have not defiled their garments, and they shall walk with me in white, for they are worthy. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his name from the book of life, but I will confess his name before my fathers and before his angels. Now, by the time you get to Sardis, okay, you're talking about a period of time that went from 508 AD once the King of France, Clovis, established the Roman Catholic Church as the corrector of all heretics, the top worldwide religion, then you also had Islam come. Then you also had Judaism come. Judaism was the moneymakers. You know, the Rothschilds, the banking dynasty, the biggest banking dynasty in history, the Rothschilds. Okay, so you have them, and then you got Islam and Christianity by the time you get to Sardis. And all three of them use the name of Yah's friend, Abraham. All three of them. Thou hast a name that liveth, and you're dead. So, all three of these religions spread themselves throughout the planet. Christianity did it. Islam did it. And Judaism did it through money. The banking dynasty, right? So now you got all three doing business, right? Okay. So now, with that being the case, you have us being enslaved by Christians, enslaved by Muslims. We were enslaved by Muslims and enslaved to money. Did I lie yet? Enslaved by Christians, enslaved by Muslims, and enslaved to money. The Federal Reserve Bank's roots start with Ashkenazi Jews. That's how the Federal Reserve Bank was started, Ashkenazi Jews. The Federal Reserve Bank is the one that creates money. And in creating money, they create debt. So those Federal Reserve notes are instruments of debt, and we are enslaved to them. See, the people that make the currency, that's why you have the Bitcoin. What people are trying to do with Bitcoin is create a currency, because the people that create currency and the people that could cause it to people believe it's valuable can control all things concerning currency. That's why Bitcoin came into being. But people don't understand Bitcoin is a trap to make you think you're getting free, but you're not. The people that control currency are in the Federal Reserve. All currency. The only currency, the only reserves, they call it the central bank. The Federal Reserve is called the central bank. The only central bank that is more powerful than the Fed is the Vatican central bank. Yes, the Vatican has a central bank. All transactions that take place that go anywhere in the world has to pass through the Vatican central bank and pay a fee, a small fee. But when you're talking about billions of transactions, okay. And so the Federal Reserve Bank lends money to the government of the United States at interest, which the government of the United States can never pay because the Federal Reserve Bank creates money. See? So we have been enslaved to Christians. We've been enslaved by Muslims, and we are enslaved to money. Ashkenazis. So you have a name that lives and are dead. But there are always those that stayed faithful to Yah. We know them as Lemba tribe, Ibu tribe, Ashanti tribe, Yoruba tribe. Yes. We know them as Ethiopians, Cush. Yes. Children of Solomon. Some of them say Haile Selassie is one of the last bloodline. Okay. But anyway, they are understanding who they are. And they know who they're not. So, our blood was shed by these heathen. Muslims shed our blood. Christians shed our blood, as you saw in the thumbnail. They're still shedding our blood. But the difference is now it's happening on less of a scale as we are awakening to what's happening. Okay? Which is the sign of their destruction. Somebody said, if it wasn't for George Washington, you'd still be picking cotton. I said, the fact that we're not picking cotton means you're soon going to be destroyed. And that's the gist of it. Now, the sixth seal brings us to 1843. 1843 is 1,335 years after 508. 508 is when Clovis said he's going to become a Christian and he's going to let the Bishop of Rome be the corrector of all heretics. This was a French king. And so that was the establishment. Now you had Constantine start the seed of this mess, as we saw in Pergamos, when he became a Christian and he did the Council of Nicaea. But then you had Clovis go a step further and say the Bishop of Rome is the corrector of all heretics. Now, 3 of those heathen nations of Europe refused to allow this. They were destroyed. Over the next 30 years, they were destroyed. And so by 538, Rome was it. And then you had the year 1300, when the Ottoman Empire started pushing. And we're going to study about that. That's in the Bible. And so you start to see Islam pushing against Rome. And in fact, let's take a look at all of this. Let's take a look at Sardis. Let's take a look at the Ottoman Empire pushing against Christianity. That can be found in Daniel chapter 11. Daniel chapter 11. Most people don't even read Daniel chapter 11 because you can't explain Daniel chapter 11 with Christianity. You can only look, as I said in the beginning of this study, you can only look through a glass darkly. You cannot see with the light of the Father's truth. The Bible says, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Messiah said, I am the light of the world. He that follows me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. That is for us, the Hebrews. So watch. Under Sardis, let's take a look here. Is also represented in Daniel chapter 11. Let me start at a place in Daniel chapter 11 that you would understand. You remember in Luke, right, how Luke introduced Rome as the power when it said there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And then Joseph and Miriam went to Bethlehem to register to be taxed. Do you remember that? That's showing you a part of history. So in other words, if somebody mentions that there should stand up a raiser of taxes, you know exactly what they're talking about. They're talking about what you saw in Luke, where it said, there shall raise up a raiser of taxes. Caesar Augustus decreed that all the world should be taxed. You could only make such a decree if you rule the world. And Caesar Augustus ruled the world from Rome. Daniel chapter 11. Daniel chapter 11. I am going to begin at verse 20 just to give you a context of where this is talking about. Okay, this is the beginning, verse 20, when the raiser of taxes came, was the time of the Messiah. And then, of course, we know what happened in terms of the life and death and resurrection of Messiah. So let's look at Daniel chapter 11, verse 20. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. So now you know who that is, right? Daniel 11:20. And there shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. So that was when Caesar Augustus decreed that all the world should be taxed. Okay. But within a few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle, telling you the end of Caesar Augustus. Then, and in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. This is internal fighting in the Roman Empire, right? Verse 22. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overthrown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. So the prince of the covenant is Messiah. So during this time, it's making note of when it happened. It happened at the time of the death of the Messiah, yea, also the prince of the covenant. I'm going to stop here. Everybody with me so far? So you can see that the raiser of taxes was Rome. And during Rome's reign, Messiah paid the penalty for our sin, the prince of the covenant. Okay, so let's continue. Let's skip down now and go to more pressing things that would represent Sardis. Okay, watch. I'm going to start with verse 31. And this starts with Smyrna and Pergamos, and then, of course, Thyatira. So let's look at this here. This is Daniel chapter 11, beginning at verse 30, and I'm going to go from verse 30 down to verse 35. Okay? For the ships of Kittim shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. So the powers of Smyrna were trying to kill the people of the covenant. The powers of Pergamos were trying to buy the people of the covenant. Balaam, okay, have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. Okay, that's the rise of Constantine Christianity. Verse 31. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and shall make the place shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. That's Constantine. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame and by captivity and by spoil many days. Now when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries. That is Pergamos, that is Balaam, that is the doctrine of the Nicolaitans. In verse 35, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. So now you're moving into Sardis. And now by the time you get to Sardis, you have Rome, the Holy Roman Empire, the religious Roman Empire, as the power of Europe. Not only the power religiously, but the power economically, the power government. That was all in the religion of the Catholic Church at that time. Okay, verse 36. So the king of the north is Rome. The king of the south that's to come, the one that pushed at him, is Islam. Let's take a look. Daniel chapter 11, beginning at verse 36 and going down to verse 40. And the king shall do according to his will, and shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. This is what Paul was talking about in 2 Thessalonians, the man of sin being revealed. Verse 38. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. This is all during that 1290-year period that I just mentioned, that Daniel also mentions in chapter 12. Okay. Where was I? Oh, yes, 39. 40. But at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. He shall also enter the glorious land, that is Israel. And many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab and chief of the children of Ammon. Many have misapplied this. When it says escape, it means be delivered. Now let me ask you, Are there countries in the Middle East that are allies of the United States? Are there countries in the Middle East, Muslim countries, that are allies of the United States? Can you name some? I'll name some. You've heard of them. You ever heard of Kuwait? Is Kuwait an ally? Does Donald Trump like Saudi Arabia? How about his son? How about Jordan? Do they like that? See, these represent Edom, Moab, and chief of the children of Ammon. These are delivered because they're on the side of Rome and the United States. Okay. Y'all got that? So now you enter a situation here where, that's right, UAE, that's right, United Emirates, yep, United Arab Emirates, Dubai. There you go. So you have people that are folding and becoming part of the system, that are in the system. Okay. Now, by the time you get to Sardis, you have these three Abrahamic religions dominant on the planet, and they're all using Abraham's name, but he ain't got nothing to do with none of them. Abraham ain't got nothing to do with Christianity. Abraham ain't got nothing to do with Judaism. Abraham ain't got nothing to do with Islam, nothing. But they're using his name. They're name dropping the friend of the Heavenly Father. Then you end up getting to a point in 1843 where it's time for the sanctuary to be cleansed, as Daniel 8 talked about. That's the time we're talking about. This is where we are now. Started in 1843 and is still going. Let's take a look now in the sixth seal. This is Revelation chapter 6, beginning at verse 12. Revelation chapter 6, beginning at verse 12. This is the sixth seal, which goes with the sixth trumpet. Revelation chapter 6, the sixth seal, the sixth trumpet, in Revelation chapter 6, verse 12. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? So we read about the vengeance, and this is what they saw. So wait a minute. That's 1843, and it's describing the return of Messiah with the Heavenly Father. But we know it hasn't happened yet. Why? Which means the sanctuary is not yet finished being cleansed. Why? Because the 144,000 are not yet sealed. They didn't even exist in 1843. But you understand, the Heavenly Father knew from the beginning that who they were going to be and who they were going to exist. At that time, the Israelites, who are our forefathers by blood, were in chains. We were in chains in Brazil and through South America and Central America. We were in chains in Mexico. We were in chains in Jamaica. We were in chains in Cuba. We were in chains in Puerto Rico. We were in chains in Haiti. We were in chains in Dominican Republic. We're in chains in Bermuda. We're in chains all over the earth. So no, we weren't ready yet, but we were going to be ready. Let's take a look at the sixth church. This is Revelation chapter 3, Philadelphia. Revelation chapter 3, Philadelphia. We're going to stop here for now. We're going to have to come back and do this, but I want to stop here for now. So Revelation chapter 3, Philadelphia, the sixth church. Beginning at verse 7. The sixth church that is in Revelation chapter 6, verse 12, beginning at verse 7. Revelation 3, 7. And the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, these things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. What is open that no man can shut, brethren? What is open that no man can shut? And when it shuts, no man can open it. What is that? That also in chapter 4 it says a door was opened in heaven. What is that? That's right. No, that's right. The door to the most holy. That's right, Brother Manny's, Brother Superstar. A door to the most holy. It's opened for us because within there, our prayers go and we are perfected. Yes, perfected. Again, let's go now. Verse 8. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength and hast kept my word and hast not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet and to know that I have loved thee. So there's going to be an acknowledgement from Ashkenazis as to who the true Hebrews are. And maybe you have seen there are some Ashkenazis already acknowledging that. It's already started. And they are hated by their own people for saying the truth. Verse 10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell on the earth. See, so there's going to come an hour of temptation that he's going to keep us from. We'll talk more about that. But there's going to be an hour of temptation, and he's going to keep us, and he's going to seal us in his spirit of righteousness and perfection. Praise the Most High. Because of the door that he opened that no man can shut. Verse 11. Behold, I come quickly. Hold thou fast, that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God. You can't be in the temple, right, brethren? Can any of the 12 tribes walk into the most holy place? Can any of the 12 tribes walk into the holy place of the temple? Can any of the 12 tribes? Can you? Oh, well, who's allowed to go in there then? Who can go into the holy place? Who's allowed in there? And he said, you're going to be a pillar in there. You're going to be like them 24 elders. You're going to be down. That's right, the Levites. Praise the Most High. I will make a pillar in the temple of my God. He shall go no more out. I will write upon him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. So the Levites are going to have the name of the Father, the name of Messiah, and the name of the Holy Ghost? No. The Levites are going to have the name of the Father, the name of the city, New Jerusalem, and the name of the Son on them. One, this is not necessarily like a writing, like some fool gonna say, well, you're gonna write the name on them. No, it means you're one with them. You're one with them. So that when Revelation comes around, this is, let's look at the bride, the Lamb's wife. He's talking about the 144,000 inside the city of Jerusalem. Okay, that's what he's talking about. And it's not just Jerusalem, I should say. It's the new Jerusalem, the one that's made without hands, not made by Jebusites, not inhabited by heathen, but one that's made without hands by the Father. And he's going to have in it us, who's going to have the name of that city, be tied to the city, be tied to the Messiah, be tied to the Father as oneness. That's the seal. See, oneness with us, the Heavenly Father, and the New Jerusalem. Praise the Most High. So we can see here that we haven't actually seen it yet, but let's start. Let me look at let's look at the next part just real quick. Revelation chapter 7, beginning at verse 1 and going down to verse 3. Okay, actually 1 to 4. Revelation 7. So the question was asked in Revelation 6, who shall be able to stand in the day of Yah's wrath. And we know now the vengeance, as Moses talked about, is about to come on planet Earth. And he's going to deliver us, his bloodline, and he's going to punish our enemies. Oh, you're going to catch it. Oh, you got stuff to pay for. And you're going to pay the penalty. Revelation chapter 7, verses 1 to 4. And after these things, I saw 4 angels stand on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. Oh, notice the angel with the seal is ascending. Ascending means he's going up. So that means he came down from the third heaven with a seal in his hand. And for some reason, he had to go back with the seal. And while he was leaving, he said, hurt not the earth, verse 3, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed. And there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So there will come a time in the near future from 1843 where the 144,000 will be prepared for their seal, which means they have to be born first, which is when the 144,000 are born, which is now. The angel with the seal will return, which is now, and start to seal the servants, which is now. Okay, and while that is going on, he had already told the 4 angels that's holding back destructive powers from coming on the heathen of planet Earth. He had told them to hold the winds until we're sealed. See, so it doesn't matter really what anybody does. It doesn't matter what Donald Trump does. It doesn't matter what Republicans do. It doesn't matter what the racists do of the Confederates and all that. It's irrelevant. Why? Because the only relevant thing is our seal. And once that's complete, they are finished. See, they can ignore what they did to us. They can ignore that picture with all them Christians there rejoicing over killing a Hebrew. And they've done that many, 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 many times. They could do that if they want to. They got to pay for that, though. See, they can ignore it, but the punishment for what they've done is not going away. They are going to pay for that. Oh, no, they're not going to pay us in Ashkenazi Federal Reserve notes. Believe me, you don't want that. You really don't. Okay, they're not going to pay you in that. So, but they are going to pay. And that's the truth. The payment for what they did to us is coming. There's nothing that can stop it. And those of us that will come back to our Heavenly Father and recognize who we are as the true bloodline Hebrews will receive our reward. And our fathers, as he said they should rest until their fellow servants and their brethren that should be killed as they were. You see the brother whose feet you see in the thumbnail? He's one of the fellow servants that was killed as these people were. See? He's one of the fellow servants that was killed as the forefathers were. That's him. That took place in the 20th century. See? So what Revelation, the 5th seal is talking about is him. Okay? That should be killed as their brethren were. There you go. Hung from trees. Shot in their bed like Fred Hampton. Murdered in their hotel room like Martin Luther King. Shot in the Audubon ballroom like Malcolm X. As their brethren were. See? Every one of them, it should rest a little season until their fellow servants, that's the fellow servants. There you go. Killed as they were, yes, they are, should be fulfilled. Yes, it has. Okay? See, they don't want to talk about us because to start talking about us is to start talking about the truth. And the heathen don't want truth. They don't. Only the bloodline wants truth and those with the bloodline. That's why any Gentile that come with us, that's down with us, is called. You got to be. When you got your whole race of people hating truth, as the Caucasians do, the Europeans hate truth. That's why the majority of them are not in it. Don't know nothing about it or don't want to. That ain't going to stop the judgment that's coming on them and their children. And that's what's happening. It's coming on them and their children, just like it came on us and our children. See, that's what you need to understand, y'all. We receive judgment as a result of our forefathers. Us are the children that receive the judgment that our forefathers also received. Look, what you think? That's going to happen to us and it's not going to happen to the heathen? Yes, them and their children are going to receive the judgment that we receive. It's going to come back on them, as we have read. There's nothing that's going to stop it. It's coming. The only question is, are you called to escape? That's the only question. We ain't, look, we not like y'all. We don't need your money. We're not looking for your money. We're going to take the whole earth. What we need your money for? The Father getting ready to give us the whole planet. He said the earth is mine and the fullness thereof. If I was hungry, I wouldn't tell you, because everything is mine. And he's going to give it to us. So we're not worried about your money, your land, your 40 acres and a mule. You're going to take the whole earth. That's what we're going to have. Okay? Messiah is going to be king of the whole earth. And we with him. That's our cousin. That's our bloodline cousin. And we're going to take the whole thing. And we're not going to ask you for it. We're taking it. And there's nothing you can do about it. Because the Heavenly Father, the Creator, has decreed it. And there's nothing he decrees that does not come to pass. It never fails. His word never fails, brethren. And we have just read it. So, the angel with the seal is back, and we are the ones being sealed. And the sealing is ongoing. And we only got about a year and a half until that's finished. See? We don't have to explain to them anything. If they want the truth, it's there. If you want it. Most don't. But let me just say again, white Jesus and Christianity is not going to get it done for you. Not going to save you. Couldn't save you from the hurricanes and the earthquakes that's coming upon you or that already has hit. And it's not going to save you going forward. And more bad things are coming because y'all got it coming. Praise the Most High Yah for his righteousness and truth and for his vengeance. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. We're going to come back from the sixth seal again by the grace of the Father Yah. Yes, there's a lot more to go into, as you can surmise. There's a lot more to go into. But you saw a big chunk of this meat today. Praise the Most High. It's coming. We're going to be delivered. The process has already begun. Sure.